The topic we're addressing today is this. The longer you stay silent, the deeper a woman feels it, and before that sentence triggers reactions, let's slow it down and talk about what it actually means. This isn't about punishment. It's not about manipulation. It's about emotional impact, perception, and what silence does inside the human mind. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is a space where we talk honestly about relationships, emotions, and the things most people feel but struggle to explain. Speaking from my experience as a therapist, I've learned something uncomfortable over the years. Silence is rarely neutral. Many people think silence is empty, that it means nothing is happening. But emotionally, silence is loud. And in romantic dynamics, it often lands far deeper than words ever could. I've sat across from countless individuals who came into sessions confused, unsettled, and emotionally shaken. Not because of arguments, insults, or dramatic breakups, but because someone they cared about went quiet. No shouting, no explanations. Just distance, and what fascinated me wasn't the silence itself, but what the mind did with it. Silence becomes a mirror. People project fears into it. Doubts grow roots there, questions multiply. Here's where this becomes controversial. Many men underestimate the emotional weight of their absence. They think I didn't say anything, so I didn't do anything, but emotionally, that's rarely how it's received. Silence often forces reflection. It creates space where emotions echo. And for many women, that space doesn't feel calm. It feels heavy. I remember one client saying, I replayed every conversation in my head because there was nothing new to hold on to. That's what silence does. It invites the mind to fill in the blanks. And the mind is rarely gentle when left alone. Now, this isn't about blaming men or placing women on a pedestal. It's about understanding emotional processing. Silence shifts power, not because it's aggressive, but because it removes reassurance. It disrupts emotional rhythm. In this video, we're going to unpack why silence feels so intense, how it's interpreted emotionally, and what it actually communicates, whether you intend it or not from theory alone, but from lived emotional patterns I've witnessed again and again. 1. Why silence is rarely emotionally neutral. When we talk about silence, most people assume it's empty. They think silence means nothing is being said. Nothing is happening, nothing is felt. But in emotional dynamics, especially romantic ones, silence is almost never neutral. From my experience sitting with people in quiet therapy rooms, I can tell you this with certainty. Silence is interpreted, translated, and emotionally processed, whether you intend it or not. Silence creates a pause in emotional connection, and the human mind does not handle pauses well. When attachment is involved, when communication stops, the nervous system doesn't relax. It scans, it looks for meaning. It asks questions, it tries to protect itself. This is why silence often lands heavier than words. Words can be challenged, silence cannot. It just sits there unanswered. And unanswered things grow. I've had many conversations with individuals who said something similar. If they had just said something, anything, I could have handled it. That sentence comes up again and again. What they weren't reacting to was rejection or disagreement. They were reacting to uncertainty. Silence removes emotional landmarks. When there's no feedback, the mind fills the gap, and it usually fills it with self-doubt, fear, or overanalysis. Emotionally, silence feels like being left alone with unanswered questions. And when feelings already exist, that isolation can feel personal. Silence doesn't announce itself as distance, but it often gets received that way. The longer it lasts, the more it starts to feel intentional. Even when it isn't, that's where the emotional weight comes from. Another thing people misunderstand is that silence doesn't pause emotions. It intensifies them. Emotions need movement to settle. When there's no movement, they circle. They repeat, they deepen. This is why silence can feel louder over time. The absence of communication becomes the message. What makes this especially powerful is that silence removes reassurance. Without confrontation, there's no argument to push back against. No tone to read, no clarity to anchor to. That ambiguity creates emotional tension, and tension, when unresolved, leaves a mark. This doesn't mean silence is always wrong. Sometimes silence is necessary, sometimes it's protective, sometimes it's healthy space. But emotionally, it is never empty space. It always carries meaning to the person on the receiving end, even if that meaning wasn't intended. Understanding this changes how you see your presence and absence. Silence isn't invisible, it communicates boundaries, emotional shifts, and internal decisions long before words ever do. That's why it's rarely neutral, and why it often feels deeper than people expect. To what the mind does,